In this video, I'm going to show you how to go from this to this in just a couple of days with a few products that you can pick up from your local hardware store. So we start the project by making some forms that will be in the enclosure of flower pots and turn them upside down, cover them with plastic bags, and use some great stuff foam to help create the form. Once it dries, I'll be able to trim away parts of it to change its shape some. After the expanding forms dried, I brought them to the store the next day to begin work on our project. You want to do a couple of things. You need to remove the shine from the expanding foam in order for products to adhere to it better. You also want to add definition. You want to cut away pieces that maybe you didn't want and define more the areas that you do like. This process doesn't take very long, and it's actually kind of fun. Now comes the hard part of any build, trying to decide where you want everything and how exactly you want it to look. I really liked the tree background, but of course it didn't look real, but I thought I could maybe use the trees on the background as a template. So I tried to keep as much of the background as I could. My hide turned out to be a little larger than I thought it was going to be, so instead of cutting the hide down, I decided to cut away the background so the hide could be directly on the back of the glass so that the animals would have more room inside the hide instead of just the background taking up space in the cage. Yeah, I think it'll work. Now how to hold it in place until it dries. Aha! Necessity is the mother of invention. And I am the queen. Ta-da! Now you see here, I'm using some more expanding foam in all the cracks and crevices to attach the hide to the background. I'd like to plant some plants. I decided to use coconut fiber as some pots. They would help retain water, so I wouldn't need to water all the time, and yet the water would drain away from the roots, so it hopefully wouldn't get root rot. And eventually it will degrade and become part of the soil, so it should work just fine. Now, how am I going to make it look like a tree? I decided to take cork, break it into small pieces, and place it along the tree trunks and some of the longer limbs on the background. It was easier to lay it on the ground in order to fill in between the cork pieces once they dried. I put black silicone in between and around all of the pieces of cork. Now I'm filling those spaces with cork bark that comes in a bag. They're larger chunks and therefore hopefully will look a little bit more like a rough tree surface. There, now I'm done. Now you take eco earth or moss or whatever you'd like to fill it with and press it in all the crevices. Push it down so it goes into the black silicone and around the cork pieces. This will help hold everything in place and the cocoa fiber will stick better and it will hide all the black silicone. While I'm waiting for the silicone to dry, I'm trying out areas in the cage where I think natural branches would look good. Once it's dried, I turn it upright and use a paintbrush or vacuum to get the eco earth out from between the cork pieces. Now I'm making some finishing touches to my hide. Checking out, do I want some more flower pots? Yep, I think I do. You can't have too many plants, right? Now it's time for the waterfall. This is my favorite part, and I was looking forward to having a waterfall in this enclosure. I love my tree skinks. They are the most entertaining reptile I have ever had, even more than my agamas, and I love my agamas. Here's a close-up of what the river looks like. What I did was took silicone, and then I pressed large stones along the edge of the river, took handfuls of smaller stones and filled the riverbed. And then in the end, I took the new Exoterra substrate. This was the black color, and I put that on top so it would fill all the little tiny cracks. So you won't see any black silicone. It'll just be rock, boulders, and sand. So this hopefully will look very much like a real river going down my hide. Now I didn't want the enclosure to only have a background. I wanted it to have depth and be three-dimensional. I feel like on this side I should have a ledge with maybe the food dishes, maybe even a couple of ledges, and it'll give them extra climbing space in the cage. And here I am with the expanding foam again, which is amazing stuff. It really is great stuff. I've made it several places where we can have plants, and the waterfall will come up through there. And this piece right here is going to fit under there. I'm going to attach stones to it and create a little pool that the tree skinks can play in. Okay, since the last time you were here, I finished the two shelves. I'm about now to cover them with the black silicone and cover them with that Exoterra substrate. Got some new planters put in there. And right here's for the food dish. That's pretty clever. It's a nice big food dish. All right, now it's time to cover the expanding foam with the black silicone. You don't have to use black silicone, you can use clear. I just prefer black because when you're working with dirt and brown bark and stuff, I'm feeling like it's less likely to show if any materials fall or degrade in the tank. So I use black, but you can use any kind. The only important thing is it needs to be aquarium silicone. Aquarium silicone does not have the strong chemicals. It doesn't have the mold inhibitors. So it's safe to use around your animals. It won't contaminate their water or their soil. You do have to be careful when you have an enclosed environment like this that you're not introducing things that can build up over time. So in the case that perhaps some chemicals are building up, or there may be something from the soil or something from the styrofoam, I just empty all of the water out of the enclosure after a couple of weeks of sitting to cycle through the water and to put fresh water back in again. So you see here I'm putting live moss and eco earth on the outside of some of the planters. Plants that creep and crawl and climb, they'll be able to hang on to this, and eventually will cover most of the background.
So now we're looking at this in here, really.
Now I'm adding moss in different areas of the tank. We will also be adding some moss and eco earth to the front of the hide. This form that I am coating with black silicone is going to be covered in rocks. I'm going to place it at the base of the waterfall, and it will create a small pool, and I'm hoping that the Emerald Tree Skinks will play in it because it's just like the thing that they would do. I used a solid rock on the base, and all of these stones are around it. Now I sprinkle the small stones to fill in any gaps. Just adding some finishing touches here.
That looks so good.
Pretty cool. So
I like that.
Kind of go around.
I like it.
You can use a paintbrush or you can go industrial. And shop vacs work great for getting extra sand and dirt out of crevices. Now comes the most difficult part for me. I'm terrible at knowing how to arrange things to be aesthetically pleasing and have tension. I don't do well. There's something you should know about me. I might be good with birds, but I'm terrible with plants. I kill them. I don't mean to. There are a few that are hardy enough to survive me. Cactuses, succulents, pothos, and there's a few in here that I'm planting. There's some wild weeds, so I'm really got high hopes for those. This poor prayer plant that I had is just too dry in the wintertime in the house, and I thought it'd be perfect if its feet aren't wet, but it's humid in the enclosure. So I'm really hoping that I'll actually have success with the prayer plants, but if anything else, I got this pothos right here. And if that's the only plant that survives in this vivarium, I will consider myself semi-successful. Well, at least I have a waterfall, right? We're just going to pretend that that I showed you where I put the plants and the branches because I forgot to videotape that part. So it's a miracle. There's branches right there. I put black silicone on the branches on the ends and shoved it into the styrofoam and then braced them and then siliconed a little bit around the outside edges of it to give it some more support. And then I take the eco earth or the substrate and push it into the silicone to hide the silicone. So we have branches there. I think I want to do one more because I'm going to have a lot of skinks in here. And I want plenty of places for them to run around and play. So I'm thinking I might put one down here as well. And then I'm going to plant a few more plants because apparently I don't know how to stop and when enough is enough. So I did buy some more plants today. I was kind of excited to buy them because they're edible, leaves and flowers. So I was thinking, if it works out, it'd be great to have them in the tank. Now I'm going to do something kind of fun. I'm going to make my own vines. It's not hard. What you do is first take the tape off here. All right. Now, this time I'm using clear because I kind of don't want it to be black. I want it to be brown and maybe even some green. So you just kind of squirt a bunch of silicone on here. You do have to make sure that you get it up everywhere because you want your dirt and moss to stick to it. I think that should be good. Think that's enough? Okay, whoa, okay, I think that's enough. Okay. I'm making this today and letting it dry overnight, and then I will be attaching it in my cage tomorrow once it's had a chance to kind of cure a little bit and dry, because you want to wait, make sure everything's dry good before you try to put it in an enclosure. Now would you look at that? Vines. Rope vine. And it cost as much as sisal rope, because that is just sisal rope and a little bit of aquarium sealant and dirt and moss. Isn't that cool? You're also going to want in your enclosure different size vines to make it look realistic. If you have all one size vine, it's okay. But you're going to want some different vines entwined around each other to kind of give it that more authentic weed taking over a tree look, you know? So we're gonna massage this in there really good. We got vines. And for our third size, I mean, not everyone wants to make their own. I mean, it's easier, obviously, to buy store-bought. Of course, we want you to buy stuff. Come on in the store and buy some store-bought ones. But if you're short on money, if you're artsy craftsy and just love making stuff, this is a fun project as long as you have gloves, because this is sticky business. Something fun to do with the kids. They're making their own enclosure. Make some vines. If you have any ideas how to make these vines even cooler or a different type of media, share them in the comments below. We'd love to hear your ideas. And here's our small vine. Here we're going to let them sit overnight. Tomorrow we're going to put them in the enclosure once they've had a chance to cure and dry. I'm surprised at how well they turned out. I really like them. Now we get to see how well the vines are going to work. I think they're going to work out really well. We wrap them around each other, wrap them around branches. I started using super glue, which would be fine because super glue, once it's dried, isn't toxic anymore. But I didn't like the way the super glue was working, so I decided I was going to use some silicone. Here I'm using paper clips to twist and braid the smaller vines together on one end, applying a little bit of silicone and holding it together with a large paper clip. By tomorrow it will have set and it'll all hold together. So silicone works really nice. So now I'm just twisting it around the branches. The tree skinks really like to climb, and they like to climb ropes, so I'm looking forward to watching them play in this enclosure on all the vines. Here again, I'm holding it together with some silicone and a large paper clip. Here I'm adding an assortment of mosses. I'm using the moss to cover the silicone that I'd used in order to hold the vines together. If I need to, I'll add just a little bit more silicone to the area to make the moss stick. This way, it covers the silicone and gives the terrarium a much more natural look. Looks good. So, full disclosure, every time you make an enclosure, you learn something. And I made a mistake with this one. I tried to plan it out really well, but I apparently forgot about gravity and how that works. I didn't find a pump that was strong enough that would be able to go up about 3 feet high and then go down the waterfall. It would just get right up to the top and just barely not make it. So I had to find a stronger pump, and I got it working. So I'm kind of excited about that, but it was a draw. It did take some time to try to resolve that. This was taking me longer to make this video because I keep finding little mistakes that I made. But they're happy mistakes because, you know, it's looking good. So let's turn on the water and see if it's going to work, because I bought a pump that will pump 20 gallons an hour. So there's a lot of pressure with this pump. So let's see. The drum roll, please. Please work. Please work. Look at that. Do you see water? Do you see water? I see water. Okay, let me get a little closer. Can you see it? And there's my little pool down here. Once it's run for a while, that'll clear up and be nice and cleaned. Look at that. That is so cool. I decided I would purchase some Oreo crumble. Their scientific name is Porcellanides pronosus. They only get to about like a ½ inch long. They are white isopods with black and blue kind of a piebald pattern on there. I only have 20. I'm hoping that they reproduce really well. So I will soon have some available for sale. There's one right there. Can you see him? Yes. Boy, that sure don't look like $60 worth of isopods. Let's see. I'm going to move this one here. There you are. Look at him go. Look at him go. All right, guys. I'm going to put you down here. Look how much my plant. I've only had this planted for not even a week, and look how those little things have just taken off. I can't wait till they're all over. They're going to climb all over this cage. All right, guys. Welcome to your new home. Here they go. It's exciting. They're like, cool, look how big this place is. Nice digs. These are Springtails. You see them? They are part of the Bioactive cleanup crew. They eat everything your reptile doesn't. They'll eat dead plants, they'll eat mold, they'll eat any leftover food, they'll eat the feces. So this is just part of what you'd actually find in nature. That's why it's bioactive. It's just part of the circle of life. So these go in here, along with my little isopods. There you go, guys. And they will help keep everything clean. Now comes the time to introduce the skinks to their new enclosure. It didn't take them long to stake out their favorite spots. Fortunately, they all have their own favorite spots, so there's no fighting. Phew. I think they like it. This was really a fun build. Thank you for watching the whole video. I know it's really long, but it took a while to make it. So there's a lot of things, a lot of processes. I really enjoyed making this tank. I'm looking forward to making another one. Perhaps the next one will be a desert scene. Maybe I should do desert. That should be fun.